All right. So the avionics bus switches now we should turn on. I want you to do one at a time. So bus 1 switch is on the left side. We're going to listen for the fan up front here. You can even feel the fan moving.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
turn that off. Okay, and turn bus 2 on. There's a fan in the back now that should turn online. You'll be able to hear it. Yeah, I can hear it. All right, you can turn that off now. Okay, so that's basically we're just checking to make sure those fans work. Okay, so forward and aft avionics fans work. All right, switches are off. We've checked both separately, so it says avionics bus 1 and avionics bus 2 separately. All right, now both of them off. Pitot heat switch on, so it's the green switch there. All the light switches on. Good, yeah, there are 2 positions for that landing light. The middle position is the taxi, the top one's the landing. Go ahead and turn it all the way to the top there. All right, low volt annunciator is shown, that's correct. So with all the lights and the pitot heat switch on, the low volt annunciator will be shown. Let's put the flaps down, watch your head here. The flaps will only deploy with electrical power to the plane because there's the motor is right here.
Okay.
And it's for both flaps, there's just this one motor. It's sitting right here in this panel. It might be, no, I'm pretty sure it's above this little panel here. All right, so now that we've got the pitot heat and the lights on, let's walk around the airplane. The left landing light. On this airplane, there are 2. There's one on both wings, one on each wing. So that one works. Nav light works. The strobe light's working. It's a little like it's a little bit dim there, so I might have to put that on. Check this. There are 2 lights on the tail of the airplane. Top flashing red is the beacon, and this rear light is a nav light. So this white light on the back is a nav light. On the right wing, we have a strobe and another nav light. So the strobe looks like it's working, and the nav light is intact as well. Now we walk around on the right side of the front here and make sure that landing light is intact as well, and it's working. All right, looks good. We'll go ahead and step into the cockpit. On the way by, feel the pitot tube and see if it's warm. All right, and it was warm, right?
Hot.
Good, so now we know it works. Pitot heat off, all the light switches off. All right, and now master switch off. Great. All right, now we're on elevator trim control, set for takeoff. This is your trim, your elevator trim. We want the white bar to match that arrow there, so that should be right in the middle. Okay, fuel selector valve is set to both. You'll shut off, I don't know, that's not on the checklist, but I usually check that as well. Alternate static air valve. So pulling this right here opens up a little port, I believe it's underneath this, right underneath the panel, like right here, which allows, if the static port on the outside of the airplane gets blocked, you pull that and it allows air from inside the cabin to get to your instruments. So you'll watch the standby altimeter here. When you pull this, you'll see a bit of a jump. See that?
Yep.
So that basically just shows that that is working. All right, now we'll check the fire extinguisher. Make sure it's all latched, the pin is intact.
Green.
Yep. The checklist that we have in this particular POH has us start from the empennage. The empennage is from basically the rear bulkhead all the way back. It's the tail of the airplane. Right. So we'll start with the baggage door. Make sure that it's closed. I usually unlatch it as well and make sure that it opens properly.
What's in there? Oh, just that.
So yeah, you've got a baggage net here, and then you have chocks. Make sure there's no damage to the empennage of the aircraft. Look at the data plate. Make sure the data plate is there. Look along the front of the horizontal stabilizer. Make sure there's no damage to it. On the elevator, we want to make sure that this counterbalance is intact here. So there's a metal piece that sits inside the front of this surface here. We want to make sure that's there. We're going to raise the elevator to full up deflection, full down deflection. Make sure the static connection, which connects these wicks to the rest of the airplane, is intact. And then there's no damage inside of any of the connection points for the aircraft. So they're all bolted in and intact. I look along the rudder here. I deflect it slightly to the right, slightly to the left, make sure it springs back to its original position here. Okay, we're gonna look at the bolts alongside in the aircraft to make sure that when we deflect the elevator, that this is moving. It's good to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all bolted in there as well. Everything looks good. Let's go around the right side. I usually look up at this point, make sure the ground adjustable trim tab is set the way it should be. It's not been moved or anything. That's really important. This should make the airplane fly differently. Static wicks are intact. VOR antennas, which are for conventional navigation. That's the V antennas out here. Those look good. And the lights are intact. Look along the right elevator. Make sure that the elevator trim, when the elevator is set to neutral, this trim is pretty close to neutral as well. So when we change the wheel in there, that's what's moving in here. This trim is physically moving up and down. So we want to make sure when the elevator is centered with the takeoff position, that the trim is centered as well.
Right.
Okay, we'll go full up and down deflection. These are connected between each other, so they should both deflect freely at the same time, but it's still good to check both sides. Static wick is intact and the counterbalance is there.
All right.
All right, front of the horizontal stabilizer is intact, no damage. Look along the empennage, make sure there's no damage there, and the numbers are intact. All right, we'll look at the top here. We're gonna now look at our antennas. The very center is the outside air temperature probe. Tells us what the temperature outside is. These two antennas are COM and GPS antennas, so they are a combination COM and GPS receiver. This is our ELT antenna. Now we'll look at the bottom of the airplane. We've got two antennas down here. Front one is a transponder, and the back one, I believe, is a outer marker. It's a marker beacon receiver. So when we're flying instrument approaches, it'll tell us where the marker beacon is.
Which one's the ELT again?
ELT is this guy. This is the emergency locator transmitter.
Okay.
So the ELT is located directly below this, and the battery itself is right back behind this panel.
Okay.
All right, now we'll take a look at the right flap. I want to just deflect maybe a finger's worth of pressure up to make sure there's a little bit of movement there. It's not stuck. I'll deflect the rod here like a pencil and make sure it's good. Now I'm going to look down each strut and make sure that the flap is undamaged, not bent. And also, this is the only chance you get to see the cables for the ailerons. So it's good to take a look inside there and make sure There's the aileron, and from the center of the aileron, which is this rib right here, you're going to just push it up to full deflection. You'll hold it up and just twist the rod there and see that it has a little bit of movement. It's not stuck. That security cable or the static connection is intact, so it's connecting the aileron to the rest of the plane to make sure that these wicks do their job. We'll walk around the outside, make sure that there's no damage to the end of the wing and that the lights are all intact. These black things here are, they prevent glare. They're glare shields. So at night, these lights don't blind you in the cockpit. All right, we'll look around the front, make sure the light is intact. Okay. And then we'll take a look at the tire. So we'll look at the main tire. We want to make sure there's tread, no threads showing on the tire. Basically, until there's threads showing, these tires are operable. The disc brake should be intact on the rotor, and there should be plenty of pad on the caliper there on both sides. The line should be intact, and no red fluid, which would be hydraulic fluid, is leaking out of it visibly. Okay, I take this opportunity to stump the right wing, so stand by when we grab the top. Spinner's intact, no bolts missing. We'll look inside the engine air cooling inlets, make sure there's nothing building a nest in here. The alternator belt in this plane we can actually see, so I physically make sure that that is connected. On the 162, the alternator's on the back of the engine, so you can't see it physically. It's kind of a nice thing about this plane is you can see if your alternator's actually working there. All right, this is the induction intake for the engine, so we want to make sure that's unobstructed of debris and it's clean. Then we'll walk around the right side of the airplane and check the nose wheel here. So we want to see at least 3 fingers worth of extension there. This should not be showing any threads. It's a little bald on spots, but it's training airplane, so we're basically expecting this is plenty enough to fly today. Okay, that's all we need to see on the nose wheel there. It's not flat or anything. Okay, this is the static port, which tells us our altitude information and our vertical speed, essentially. Want to make sure that's unobstructed. We'll look inside of the air cooling inlets there too to make sure the PO tube is unobstructed. Stall warning vent is unobstructed. The fuel tank vent is also unobstructed.